This week, I'm excited to have Heather Hernandez back on the podcast for part 2. I think it can be summed up in this line from Think and Grow Rich. The turning point in the lives of those who succeed usually comes at the moment of some crisis through which they are introduced to their other selves. I think far too often we see people who have succeeded, or we think they got lucky or they've had it easy, when in reality, when you really hear their story, they've had some sort of turning point or pivot point in their life that has led them to where they're at today. This is the No Excuse to Miss podcast. Welcome to the No Excuse to Miss podcast. I am your host, Scott Volquartsen. We are back this week for part 2 of our conversation with Heather Hernandez. If you missed part 1, you can check it out, episode 43. So we are going to get right into it. How are you doing, Heather?
I'm doing pretty good today. How about you?
I am good. Thank you for taking time again to do this. I'm really looking forward to it.
Of course. I love it here.
As we wrapped episode 1, we were kind of talking about a pivot point that you encountered in your life where you were in your first year of college and your mom unexpectedly passed away. And at that point, we realized we were never going to be able to cover everything we wanted to in the time constraints that we had. So we thought we'd hop back on and do it here.
Yes.
So for those that maybe haven't listened to that previous episode, can you just recap a little bit what happened there? Just kind of going to college as a Division I athlete that had always excelled.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I went up to college in Oregon. I played basketball, softball. I even tried a year of track. And I grew up playing sports. I played varsity all 4 years in college. I was just always very athletic and ahead of the herd. And then when I was a freshman in college, it was that January. So college started in September. That January, my mom unexpectedly passed away. I had just gone home for my first break, which was Christmas break. So I went back to college around January 1st. And then I found out on January 10th that my mom had passed away. I wanted to drop out of school. I went back. My dad kind of convinced me to go back. But it was obviously really hard. I remember not really having my head in the game anymore. My performance was so unusual to what I was used to. And I was kind of stuck in that just bad place for a little while. You're a teenager, your parent passes away, you go right back to school, right back to sports. And I found myself just not really being able to concentrate when I was in the outfield, on the court, on the track. My head was just totally out of it. And I don't know, I guess for my age and where I was at in life, I just couldn't get out of it at that time.
And something you mentioned that I found interesting was you went through a period of guilt. Can you elaborate on that? Was it just a matter of, being a normal teenage kid that the last thing you want to do is go hang out with your parents?
Yeah, that's honestly exactly what it was. I still feel that guilt sometimes when I'm like in my head and just thinking about life. I remember, I went home for Christmas break. I saw my dad. I saw my mom. I stayed at my dad's house, and then I think I spent a weekend at my mom's apartment. And the last day before I left for college, I was supposed to stay the night over at my mom's house, and I was a typical 19-year-old teenager. And I decided to go out and party with my friends instead, hang out, stay out. And, she was a little upset that I didn't end up staying the night with her that night, and which is totally understandable. Me and my mom really were best friends. We're a lot alike. And I remember telling her, Mom, it's not a big deal. I'm going to be back for spring break. And, you always hear people tell you have to treat every moment with someone like it's your last. And you really don't ever think it's really going to be your last. And that's something I've never forgot, was telling her, don't worry about it, Mom. I'm going to be back for spring break. And then a couple weeks later, I got the call that she passed away. And I held on to guilt for many, many years. And if I'm being honest, like I said, I don't think I have 100% let that go. I still have times where I think about it and I wish I did things differently. But I've grown from it, and I approach my relationships and my time with people like it's the last time all the time.
And I was just going to ask how that changed, like when you're dealing with people now.
Yeah, honestly, like I have such a a higher appreciation and sensitivity for just spending time with my family, my friends, my loved ones, people I care about, and even time with strangers who might just need something from me, need some advice, some coaching. Because it really is like that cliche. I thought it would only happen in movies, like you don't see someone and you say you'll see them again, but you don't ever see them again. So, I mean, like, especially my family, I spend so much more time with them now. My friends, it really just really makes you see how precious time is. It's more important than partying, than working, than hanging out, than doing anything, is time with the people that you really care about.
And I think when we're 18, 19, 20 years old, we all have that feeling like we are invincible.
Absolutely.
And even that those around us are invincible and we're not going to, like you said, it happens to other people, it happens to movies, but it's not going to happen to us.
Exactly.
And I think you mentioned that it took you a good 3 years, maybe longer, to kind of get out of, like the funk that you were in. I don't want to call it a funk, but, to get out of like the dark place that you were in and start moving forward.
Yeah, no, I was definitely in a funk. I remember it being about 3 years. In 2 of those years, I was still in college. So once I went home, I was just once I went back to college, I just partied and went to school, went to practice. I tried to keep myself distracted. But I just remember being in a funk. I think I was even just kind of like a bitch at times, to be honest. Just like not really this nice, happy, bubbly person that I am. Like just judgmental. I had no sympathy for other people going through bad things because to me, I was going through the worst thing. And, I would remember me and my mom would talk on the phone every single day. Like not one day would pass where we didn't talk on the phone. She was very like communicative, affectionate, like always told us she loved us, always want to talk on the phone every day. And when you go from 100 to 0, especially as a teenager, like even today, like I think every human needs their mom, no matter how old you are. You need your mom to call you and tell you that it's going to be okay and that you're doing great. And it took me a while to adjust to that. And I just remember being in a bad headspace for about 3 years. I'd sit on my laptop in my dorm in my little bunk bed and just cry at night. And I never thought I was ever going to be happy again or get out of it. And it was about a year after I moved back home to Vegas that I kind of like had a little light bulb type of moment where I started to realize that I could be happy again. And I still had my brother and my dad and all my other family that needed me. And that's when I really started working myself out of that bad place, is when I moved back home.
And what were some of the things that you did to start to process and deal with it and cope with it?
I think one thing is when I moved back home, it forced me to deal with it because I was in college and I went home for a week for my mom's funeral. I planned the funeral. I set it up. I invited all the friends and family. And then it was like, okay, I have to go back to school. So when I went back to school, it was kind of like almost putting everything on pause. I just went back and saw all my college friends, partied, played sports, partied a lot. Like I was not a partier and I started partying at that point. So I didn't really have to think that much about it, or at least I tried not to. And I remember when I first moved home, kind of going through a little depression again, because all of a sudden I was in the house that I grew up in with my mom. All of a sudden I was seeing her picture every time I walked down the hallway because I went back to the house I grew up in where my dad and brother still live. And it forced me to actually like deal with it, cry, be sad, be mad, talk to my family, talk to friends. I had a counselor for a little while. And there was like things that she said to me that made me think long term. And honestly, I hate to say it, but the things that really helped was hearing other people's stories who had gone through it. Not that I was happy they got through it, but they were the only people that I would really listen to. Anyone who hadn't lost a loved one or lost a parent or gone through something tragic, I could just think, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know how hard this is. But the people, like even I had a couple of friends who lost a parent around the same time. They were the ones who really helped me feel better, was hearing their story.
And the one thing that I noticed kind of when I went through it with my sister is that, prior to, yes, I know people had lost siblings and lost loved ones, but I don't think I ever really fully thought about it And then after I went through it, and as I started dealing with things, I started looking around, and to me, it was incredible how many people had gone through very similar circumstances.
Yeah.
And it made me start realizing, that I wasn't, was I a good enough friend for them? Did I reach out to them? Was there anything more that I could have done for them?
Yeah. It's funny how that works, because I remember feeling exactly the same way. And even now, as I get older, I think about that a lot. And it's true, like, we don't know what we don't know. You don't really know how bad it hurts till you go through it. You don't know how to console somebody if you've never been there. I think about all the advice I probably tried to give before that. And it's true, you just don't really know till you go through it. And I think once you do, you're able to connect with someone. It's not just sympathy, it's empathy at that point. So you're able to connect with them and to listen in a genuine manner and really feel what's going on with them. But it is like, there's certain things that unless you go through it, it's really hard to help somebody else go through it.
And something you had mentioned in our previous episode was that was something you wanted to do, was share your story, that to help other people that are going through a similar thing. So if they got out of, or if you were able to get out of it, how can you help somebody else? Why do you feel, do you think that's part of the healing process, that when you're able to help other people, it kind of helps you heal?
I think that is part of the healing process. Once you've kind of had whatever your own time is to yourself to process it. I mean, I definitely was in no place to help somebody get through it in my first couple years. But I think where I'm at now, which, to be honest, I don't even really share the story that much unless someone specifically asks me about my mom. Or sometimes people do. They'll be like, I noticed you only talk about your dad, where's your mom at? And then I'll talk to them and chat about it. But I think it is, you have to kind of go through your own process first before you can really help others. But once you get to that point, I notice sometimes when I do talk to other people who have been through it maybe more recently, because people always say to me, like, oh, you're always in a good mood. Oh, you always have good energy. Oh, you're always such a positive, bubbly person. And since I'm like that all the time, they get this think like, I've never had a problem in my life. I don't have family issues. I've never had anything tragic happen. And then when I share that story, you can really see the look on their face, like, wow, you've really gone through things and you're still this happy, upbeat person. You're not a victim. You're not pissed off at the world. You're not like unsympathetic to other people. And I think that's kind of how we can still have an impact, is still being this good, positive person that doesn't get drugged down because you had something really terrible happen in your life.
And do you feel like you're able to do that because, like, the little things that, if you haven't gone through something like this, sometimes the little things in life can set us off or make us feel like everything's against us. But
people,
go ahead.
I think people do fall into that really easily. Like, everyone's against me. Why me? Why me? Why me? I remember when my mom died, that's all I could think is, why me? I try to be a good person. I go to school. I get good grades. Like, why me? It's really, especially at that age, like, it's something I only saw in movies. I didn't really get that much of life at that point. And when I meet people with that victim mentality, why me? I try to help them out. Like, it's not you. It's actually a whole bunch of us, but everyone's not talking about it. So we don't really know that unfortunately, it happens to a lot of people. Like, look at me, you. I can name a handful of people who have gone through the death of a loved one, tragedy. And I think when you're just hurting so bad in that moment, for anyone, it's hard to think anything else than why me. I think that's a normal human reaction when things happen like that.
I would agree. And then I think at some point, at least for me, I had to then be like, okay, nothing I can do can change what has happened.
Yes.
All I can do from here on out is control how I respond to what has happened. And at that point, and I don't want to like downplay it because it was much more difficult. And like you said earlier, it was a work in progress, and it's still a work in progress. But at some point, I had to make that conscious decision that, there was nothing I could do that, kind of like back to your guilt thing, nothing I could do would change the things I was guilty about, or, what could I have maybe done differently, or all these different things.
Yeah.
But I just had to come to grips with I can't change the past and all I can do is control the present and the future. But also, like you said, it completely changed how I treat relationships with people. I don't wait to tell somebody now something, until next time.
Yeah, because you never know when it's going to be the next time.
And
it happens far too often to far too many people, is that we think next time. I'll do the workout next week. I'll tell this person I love them tomorrow. I'll take my parents out next week. Not everyone gets that chance.
No, and I think it's really easy. We all get caught that we're in the busy trap of we don't have time right now. And
it's all the busy trap.
And then next thing you know, we don't have that opportunity. And I think the other thing it did is it made me, at least personally, realize all the stuff that I concerned myself with prior that is so inconsequential and so petty.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the things that I was, what is this person going to think if I do this? Or what are these people going to think if I do this? I had to get out of my own head and realize in the grand scheme of things, it's so that stuff is so minute compared to some of the other stuff I've dealt with.
Yeah.
I think it's helped me get past a lot of that.
Oh yeah. I think once you've kind of gone through, kind of like what you said, when you've gone through something like that, these little things that people think are issues, you realize it's really not an issue. I've gone through worse. It could be worse. I could almost be grateful that this is a smaller problem compared to what it could be.
Yes. So what advice do you have for people who, when they're going through something like that, it may not be something to this level, just when they're going through something and they can't really see an end to the means or a way to get out of that situation, what advice do you have for them to kind of start turning things around?
I think my best advice would be to remember that there is a future and the future is very long. There's a lot that can happen in the future and a lot of opportunities. And it's kind of like you said, you eventually have to accept the part that you cannot change what happened. Doesn't matter how much you yell, scream, cry, curse the skies, you cannot change it. And by dwelling on it, you're only going to stay there longer. When you get to the point where you just accept it, you don't have to be happy about it, but you accept it, then you can start moving on. And it is ideal to find people who are maybe dealing with things that you're dealing with. If you're a mom who's stressed, talk to other moms who are stressed and see how they're coping. If you just lost a parent, maybe you can join a group of people who have lost parents and talk about it. Whatever, the stressor is or the issue, finding a like-minded community, because you're going to find people in that community who are doing better than you, who are doing worse than you. You might be somewhere in the middle, but finding a community of people to talk to, ask questions, a counselor, whatever it may be. We have to talk to other people. You can't bottle all your problems inside. And that would be my main advice, is really reaching out to other people who can help you, give an opinion, or even just listen to you.
And I think for at least in my case, for men in particular, we've always been taught, that's quote unquote weak to have to go out and ask others for help or, share our story. We're supposed to lone wolf our way through it.
Yes. And that is honestly I hate that stereotype is out there because it has been for so long. I think in today's day and age, it's starting to turn a little bit.
I think so.
But I think, men especially, you should get a counselor. You should talk to your bros or your parents or your friends or your girlfriend or your wife or whatever it is. You don't have to be this strong guy all the time. And I think it is extremely attractive when a man can just be vulnerable, who can just talk about his feelings. That's the most manly thing to me, is when you can be yourself and realize that you do have a soft side and you're going to get sad and you're going to cry, and it's normal. There's no well, you're a man, so you can't be sad. And since you're a woman, you should be super emotional. We're all humans at our core. So we all process emotions. There's no boy emotions and girl emotions. It's just human emotions.
100% correct. Were you that way prior to this? Were you a very open person, or did you kind of have to force yourself to open up after?
I would say I was actually not an open person at all before this. I was pretty immature. I just kind of laughed everything off, got in trouble, laugh about it. Something sad happened, laugh about it. Other people are dealing with problems. Not my problem. And I remember my mom even telling me before, like, you don't have to laugh about everything. You can take something serious. Or she would tell me like, it's okay to cry, because I never really showed like sad, vulnerable emotions growing up. I remember just kind of never taking anything seriously. And my mom was very into her emotions and just feeling things and processing. And I wasn't like that up until that happened. I remember, so when my mom was 11 years old, she lost her mom in a car accident. So she was 11 years old. She had just lost her mom. And I remember probably being a teenager, and my mom would cry every Mother's Day, like just cry and cry and cry. And I think I even asked her one time, because I'm like 14, 15, and I don't understand anything at all. And I remember asking her like, well, why do you still cry about it? It happened 30 years ago. And to this day, I know exactly why she cries about it, no matter how long ago it happened, because you're still going to feel that every time Mother's Day comes along, every time a birthday comes. It doesn't matter how much time passes, like, you're going to feel those emotions and you can't fight it, because it's going to bottle up and make it worse. You have to let that river flow anytime it calls for it.
And I think that's so important. And I found that, for me personally too, you can't control when it comes and goes. But like you said, you just have to let it go when it does show up. And at least for me, I found that if I deal with it as it comes up, then I'm able to move on and keep doing things.
Yeah.
Or if I do exactly what you said, where I try to bottle it up, then it kind of affects all areas of my life. And before long, I can't figure out why I'm not, I don't have the same energy. I'm not in a good mood.
Yeah.
But I just have to process and deal with that stuff. And then all of a sudden it seems to, take care of itself as much as possible.
And I think that's something that, a lot of people could benefit from, and maybe just even hearing us talk about it, is like, cry when you feel like crying. Talk about it when you feel like talk about it. Like, if you let it bottle up, like you said, it will affect you. You will have days where you're not in a good mood. Like, I would be snappy with people. I would be just like, not myself, and I couldn't figure out why. And it's because I was always bottling up these emotions, these tears, these feelings. And that's honestly the worst thing you can do, is to bottle it up, because it's got to go somewhere. Like, it's going to come out at some point, and it may come out in a manner that you don't feel like you can control, or in a manner that negatively affects other people. But if you're the one controlling how it comes out, then you're going to be in a good position. But you've got to be willing to let it out and cry and just do whatever it takes.
That is so true. Did you find that something like this, or even in the last episode we talked about your injury, did it change like how you approach your goals and different things, like the level of urgency that you put towards them?
Yeah, I think it did a lot, actually. I try to put a little bit more urgency on the things that are important to me, prioritizing. I would say I'm pretty successful in my business. I do some business and rentals outside of this, and I'm not even close to where I want to be as like an adult who's met all her goals. I don't know if I'll ever get to the point where I've met all my goals, but to be like a young person, unmarried, no kids, 2 properties, working on my 3rd one right now, an extremely busy personal training business, like just an independent young girl. And people are always like, wow, I can't believe you've accomplished this, and you're only like at this age, or I can't believe you accomplished this. When people kind of like just meet who I am, figure out my life and what I'm doing. And in my head, like, I'm not even where I think I should be, but other people are like, wow, you're really far ahead for your age or for what you're doing in life. And since I've had that injury, since I've lost my mom, it really instilled in me, like, you cannot wait to accomplish your goals. You can't wait till tomorrow to work out. You can't wait till next summer to have your dream body. You can't wait till you're 40 to be financially secure. Like, you literally don't know when it could be your last day. You don't know when it could be someone close to you is going to have their last day, and that might send you off into a different direction. Like, time is not unlimited. And that's what I've taken away the most from those situations is if I have a goal, I need to do it now. Like I don't have tomorrow.
And, you mentioned a couple times in there, like the training and the dream body and stuff, but did you find like exercise was an outlet for you that really helped?
Yes, it absolutely was an outlet. I remember, so I was in my first year in college, and like I said, like it was weird because that was the first time in my whole life I ever felt like I was bad at sports. Like I was not starting anymore. I was not making all these star plays. I started sitting the bench, and to someone who's never sat the bench before, I was just like kind of like shaking myself, like, what the hell is wrong with you? Get out of it. And I really couldn't for a while, but when I moved home from college, I started boxing, and that literally like changed everything. I started just because some guy at the gym was like, hey, you should start boxing, because I was talking to him about how I didn't have any sports to play anymore. And once I started boxing, dedicating myself to something, I boxed 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. And then I started fighting and competing against really good girls and sparring girls from California and all over who would come to Vegas and doing really well, sparring professional guys and doing well, keeping up with them. That's when I really kind of had something else to focus and hold on to. And to be honest, like you get a lot of this like pent up energy. And I feel like boxing is one of the best ways to get it out, punching things constructively. And just kind of sometimes I would just go crazy on the bag. Like I would be having an emotional day and I would beat the shit out of the heavy bag for 3 minutes. And I was almost in tears by the end. And it's because I was thinking about things that were bothering me with, my mom and everything. And I took it out in my workouts.
And, did you find too, like then when you were boxing, because obviously if you're sparring, not hitting the heavy bag, but sparring with another person, did it help that you had to be 100% present in what you were doing there?
Absolutely.
To kind of,
yes.
Free your mind from the thoughts that you would typically have, just because I can't, I've obviously never boxed, but I would imagine it's one of those things that you cannot have your thoughts heading elsewhere, or you're going to get injured or, get knocked out in the process.
Yep. And that's, what I tell people about boxing. Like you said, it's a sport that you have to be 100% there. So, of course, when I'm doing drills, hitting the mitts, hitting the heavy bag, I can think about whatever I want, take it all out. It's only going to help me have better conditioning. But when you step into that ring against an opponent, it's like a superpower. You have to be able to totally clear anything that's in your mind that is not about sparring this person right now. Because, boxing, it's not like soccer or basketball or all these other sports I love, where the worst that's going to happen is you're going to lose the game. Like the worst thing that can happen is you lose. Boxing's not like that. The worst thing that can happen is you get seriously injured. You get the shit beat out of you. You get your ego bruised. You get embarrassed. Like there's so many different levels of things with boxing that you cannot afford to be off your game even a little bit there. And that is one thing. So I tell people, practicing where your mind goes and the thoughts that you think, it's like a muscle. You have to train it. And if you're constantly training it, you are totally in control of your mind, your thoughts, and yourself. And if you're not training it, your mind's going to take over all the time, and then you're not in control of your life anymore.
Completely agree with that. Did you find, along that same thought process, did you find that like getting into like a daily routine or anything like that helped you kind of cope with everything, to kind of force yourself to go do certain activities?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think it's easy for people to just sit at home and be depressed all day, but kind of getting into a routine. Like once I was kind of starting to pull myself out of the depression, it's around the time that I found boxing. Because the first year that I moved home, I didn't do anything. I wasn't working out. I wasn't boxing, lifting weights. I remember just feeling really out of shape for the first time in my life. I'm kind of like my dad. Like when he gets depressed, he gets really skinny, underweight, loses all his muscle. And I remember like losing my muscles, not feeling like an athlete anymore. And then I got into that routine. Every morning I would box. I'd go to boxing for 2 hours. I'd go home, take a shower, and then I'd go work. I'd get home, eat, sleep, get up and do it again. And to be boxing 2 hours a day, 6 days a week at that level, it's very intense. Like you have to really plan your days out to make everything fit. And when you're going and you're staying busy, you don't have time to just lay down and be depressed all day, every day. And I think that's one of the most important things. Even my little brother, for example, he's a few years younger than me, and he was affected by my mom's passing on just like a way. I thought mine was bad, but he stayed in that headspace for years and years and years. And to be honest, it's only been maybe in the last 2 years that he's kind of found himself again. And it's because I put him on a routine. I've got him coming to the gym and training. He works out a couple days a week. He's got another job, but I've put him on a very particular training routine, and I'm starting to see like my little brother again that I remember from when we were kids. And it's funny how something as simple as a workout routine, a trainer, someone waiting for you at the gym, something like that to put your time and energy to can really change the course of your life.
Well, and you bring up a great point. How much do you think having like somebody that you have to be held accountable to is such a critical component to that? You know, you mentioned when you went to college, you probably didn't have anybody that you really had to be accountable to.
Yeah. And there wasn't. I mean, we had a coach, but the coach is coaching 30 girls. Like, you're not going to have this one-on-one all the time. And I really applaud like student athletes, especially in college. You know, you're 19, 20, 21, 22. You have to really be able to hold yourself accountable. And I think as adults, when we're so busy with work, husband, wife, kids, that's why people prioritize health, fitness, gym. It's usually at the bottom of the totem pole for most people. People that have a trainer, it's totally opposite. You know that your trainer is at the gym waiting for you. They're going to keep you accountable. They've got the routine. They've got everything. You don't have to think. All you have to do is show up. Because like sometimes when I would have days where I didn't really feel like going to the gym and it was just me working out on my own, it's so easy to either not go and say I'll go tomorrow or to show up and half-ass it. But the days when my boxing trainer is waiting for me, there's no way I can't show up, and there's no way I can give anything less than 100%. Now you take that on a regular basis, you get into the best shape of your life, you have somebody who's in your life. Like, this is what I say, everyone needs a coach. Doesn't matter if you're an adult, professional athletes have coaches. Everyone in life, I think, needs some kind of a coach.
I would completely agree with that. And I remember the first time I hired a, coach, it was before, I think it's a little more commonplace now, but it was before that. And people would kind of make fun of me. They're like, what are they going to coach you in? And yeah. I'm like, well, I have a business coach. I have a trainer. And it was all about holding me accountable.
Yes. I think a lot of people don't really get that, because you will like find people that are like, oh, what do you need a coach for? And especially me, I'm a coach and I have a coach. But like you said, having a business coach, having a coach for the gym, like anyone who's in your corner who can look at things you're dealing with from a different perspective, give you advice from a different perspective. Like, I don't think there's anyone in the world that can say that they've never had any help. Even the strongest people need help. And I think, like, I don't ever see my life where I don't have a coach. No matter how old I am, I'm always going to have a coach in my life, whether it's a business coach, a trainer, somebody who I can be like, hey, does this sound crazy? Like, can you give me some advice here? Or, because that's really what it is. Like, whatever the coach is helps you in every aspect of your life. And I think it's such an undervalued thing right now.
I would agree. And the thing that I found too is it has to be somebody that tells you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear.
Yes.
They have to be willing to call you out, and you have to, from the student side, you have to be able to trust that coach or mentor. So when they do call you out, you're not offended or like, oh, I'll just go find a different coach.
Exactly. And I think part of the reason that I am as successful as I am is because I tell my people what they need to hear. And it's not always things they like. Sometimes, it's things that they really don't want to hear. Even my friends, they'll like come up and they'll ask me for some advice. And, it could be advice or a question that they know is going to be something they don't want to hear. And they'll ask me anyways. And I'll tell them, I'm like, okay, but you're asking me and I'm going to give you the truth, right? And they're like, that's why I'm asking you, because I know that you'll really tell me the truth. And it's not always hard, or it's not always easy to give them the truth, but I do believe in being tactful too. Like, I tell my people some really hard things, but I tell them with a smile on my face, and almost make a joke out of it. And like, we laugh about it, but they know it's what they need to hear.
And I would think that your experiences, everything from your injury to your mom passing has, probably given you a compassionate side that, gives you that tact so you can deal with people and you understand when they're going through things. But
Absolutely.
then the other side is you also know that sometimes tough love is what people need to reach their goals.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. My mom was super tough on us when we were kids. She's from the South. She was raised by her grandparents after her mom died. Just super old school, strict manners. And, she was like hard on us. She kept us in line, spanked our ass when we needed it. Like, if I ever disrespected a teacher at school, my mom would come up to the school, make me sit down at recess while everyone else is playing. Like, so that's kind of where, I am with it too. Like, there's no time to repeat mistakes. Once it happens one time, we have a talk about it. We're good. We move on. And I think that's a lot of value that my clients get from our training. Like, I'm not going to let you do that exercise wrong. And I'm not going to let you leave the gym without putting your weights away. I'm not going to there's so many little things that coaches forget are important. But the fact that I give my clients these tools means that they feel 10 times more confident going to the gym on their own and practicing this exercise, because they know that I've never let them do it wrong. So they're not going to do it wrong on their own now.
And I think that transcends into the other aspects of their life too, when they start taking a little extra time to put the weights away. They take, they're willing to set their ego aside to learn the proper way to do an exercise versus just doing it to get it done.
Yes.
I think that all of a sudden that starts showing up in your business life. It starts showing up in your marriage. You're all of a sudden putting just that little extra effort into everything that you do.
It does really transfer over. And I think we obviously can see the value in that, and people learn it as they keep going. I was having a talk with one of my clients when I was at the gym one time, and it was kind of funny, but it's like real life. There was a gentleman at the gym who was, pretty fit. And I was up on the stairs doing my cardio, and I remember seeing him not put shit away, like leave all his dumbbells out, leave the weights out. And then, of course, sometimes you have senior citizens who need the weights and they have to unload your 8 plates from the leg press, or maybe just anyone who's not as strong. And I think the gentleman might have came up to me and asked me for my phone number or something like that. And I was like, bro, you did not put any of your weights today. Hell no. But it's little things like that. Like, if someone doesn't re-rack their weights at the gym, they're probably lazy as shit in their whole life. If they don't wipe down the sweat from their machine, even though they see someone about to get on it, they probably don't have a clean house or a clean car or an organized business. Like, it's little things like that.
And that's a perfect example too of people are always watching what you do, even when you don't think they are.
Absolutely.
People pick up on all those little things. I had and I think I've told this story before, but I had the privilege of going through the First Form supplement store, or the First Form headquarters down in Missouri.
Oh, yeah.
Where every single weight is lined up. The name is perfectly horizontal across the plate. All the dumbbells are in the exact same alignment.
Mm-hmm.
If you get water spots on the counter in the bathroom, it's your responsibility to wipe them back down. But I was only there for a couple of days for a conference, but it was amazing how just being in that environment, I brought that back to, what we do here. And I'm like, we can do so much better on all these little things.
Yep.
And
it's really that attention to detail, and the people who are willing to put attention to detail in one aspect usually do it, like you said, in every other aspect: business, home, relationships, marriage, whatever it is.
And I'm sure your coaching and your training is very similar. Something that we do with inside our business is people have asked us before why we don't build an entry level or an economy line of firearms or parts.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of the reason we've never done it is I feel like once you make that concession that this part's going to be cheaper, or we're going to take these shortcuts on this rifle or this pistol, all of a sudden it's impossible to separate when you're building the quote unquote cheap gun versus the expensive one.
That is honestly a perfect point right there. Because it does transfer over, what you're about, what your brand's about. And once you start that's how I feel sometimes I'll do a workout where I'm so dead at the end, and I, have a whole little boot camp set up, and I'm like, oh, do I need to put every little piece back in its place? I'm like, yes, because as soon as I don't, I'm going to start blurring the lines of being one of those people who doesn't and one of those people who does.
And that's when all of a sudden a potential client sees it and they're like, oh, she can't even bother to put her stuff away. Why would I hire her to be a coach?
Exactly. And it's like you said, people are always watching. Even when we think people are not watching, they're watching. And if you're only trying to do the right thing because you think people are watching, like, that's not what it's about. It's about doing it for you. Doing the right thing builds your confidence. And when it's instilled in you, you don't have to think about doing the right thing. It's just who you are. So it happens.
Yes. It's kind of like, and I've been guilty of this, so I'm not calling anybody out, but you start tracking your food in like an app like MyFitnessPal or something.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you grab a handful of chocolate or whatever is not on your plan or whatever you're not supposed to be eating, and you don't enter it like it's not going to happen. like you're
exactly.
Like you're going to trick your body that you actually didn't eat, the handful of M&M, whatever it is. But I see it so many times, and I hear other people do it, and you just have to learn that it's every little thing that you're looking at to reach a goal.
Yeah. Every little thing counts. Every little thing matters. Like you said, just because you didn't enter it into your app doesn't mean that you didn't enter it into your body.
Yes.
Just because someone didn't see that you didn't put your shit away at the gym doesn't mean that you still didn't put your shit away. Like, that's the thing that I think people, if they were just a little more conscious on, would really make it a lot further and be more successful and rub off on other people. And we could honestly all get our shit together a little more.
Yeah. And I think every time we do that to ourselves, whether it be not put something away or not give 100% effort at work or wherever the place is in the gym, in some ways it eats away at our self-confidence because we know what we've done and not done.
Yes.
And, circling back to like when we first started talking, trying to get out of like dark times or a funk that we're in, we're always searching for like this one big thing that's going to happen that's going to get us over the hump, or, whether it be financially or fitness wise or, dealing with a tragedy. We're always looking for that one big event, when in reality, what I've learned is it's all the little things that add up that seem very minor at the time, but then you look back a year or two later and you're like, it's all those little things that got me to where I am right now.
Exactly. I think that's really, like you said, it's all the little things that get you to where you want to be. It's not one certain thing. And that's kind of what I try to tell my clients or people in my life who ask for coaching, advice, and all that. There's not one special food that's going to get you to where you want to be. It's eating the proper food every single day. There's not one special magic workout that's going to give you your dream level of performance. It's doing your fundamentals every single day. Being a good person doesn't mean doing a good deed one time. It means doing good things every single day, picking up your trash every single day, putting your stuff away. It's little things done on a consistent basis that gets you to this big thing, not vice versa.
Yes. And, I think in the culture that we're in, everybody wants to do that one big thing because then they can put it on social media. They can, share it, show it, do whatever.
Yeah.
But the people that really are successful are the ones that are doing all those little things when people aren't watching.
Exactly. And that's really what makes the difference, I think, is doing the little things when people aren't watching, because like, you're watching. You have to respect yourself.
Yes.
And when you know that you are doing the right things every single day, you're keeping the promises that you made to yourself. You're doing the workout because you told yourself you would do it. You're following the nutrition because you told yourself you would do it. You're giving 110% at work because you told yourself you would do it. I think that's where confidence really grows, is respecting yourself, and then confidence goes, and that'll just affect everything around you. But when you're constantly lying to yourself, constantly letting yourself down, constantly breaking your nutrition, breaking your workouts, what kind of person can have any true confidence when they are constantly disrespecting their self?
Absolutely. And the one thing I've learned too is, how can you expect, somebody else to have confidence or faith in you if you're not even keeping the promises to yourself?
Yeah. I think that's a big thing. A lot of people maybe just undervalue how important it is. You'll see people go to work and, they start work at 10 and they show up on time because their boss is going to get on their ass if they don't. But they told themselves that they would show up for their workout at 10 and they don't show up at all because no one else is going to get on their ass. Why are you willing to do what's necessary because someone else told you to, but you're not willing to do what's necessary because you told yourself to?
That's just so important. I think it's, like you said, if we could all be a little more accountable to ourselves, we'd be in a much better world right now.
Absolutely. Like I respect myself so much and I practice it every single day. And like I do the workouts, I follow my nutrition. There's certain habits I just won't do. Even if I'm not on a certain nutrition plan and people be like, oh, why don't you just have that? Like, I'm like, because that's just not something I do. Like, these are just things I don't put in my body. This is just a certain lifestyle, that I live. It's for me. It's not for other people. And then people wonder like, oh, you're such a confident girl. And it's because I'm constantly respecting myself as a woman and the person I want to be. And that's really where it comes from. People think that you're just born with confidence. And I think it's built over time.
I would agree with that. And like, we said, it's all those little things that you do to build up that confidence. You speak of nutrition. I think one of the often overlooked things there is that what we put into our bodies a lot of times will affect our mental, if we are going through some depression or whatever it might be, eating crap is only going to further that problem.
Yeah. Eating crap, drinking, constant soda, candy, sugars, oils, just like you're putting a lot of crap in your body, you're going to feel like crap. Like that's just how it goes. And I think people, especially here in America, a lot of people are so used to putting crap in their body that they don't even know how it feels to function on a totally healthy, fit, like body life regimen because they're so used to just being in that crappy feeling state.
And I think that's probably why a lot of people, when they first start a diet or a new nutrition plan, regardless of what it is or which plan they're following, they feel so good because they're really monitoring what they put in their body for 3, 4, 5 days or a couple weeks, whatever it might be.
It makes a difference. And I think the more in tune you become with your health and your body, the more aware you are of these little things. Like if I'm trying to even think, like if I have a drink of alcohol, the next day I can feel like, dang, I feel a little bit slower, a little foggy, a little tired. And, I'm by no means being like, nobody should ever drink, but that's just an example. I can feel it the next day. I can even feel it, like hours later. It's like everything's just a little slower and not as hyped as normal. But on the other hand, like when I eat, say I have a whole day where I just ate a lot of protein, fruit, vegetables, I feel like this energy. I'm more like a superhero. Like, when Mario eats that green mushroom and he goes, bloop, bloop, bloop. That's how I feel like when I have even if I have lunch and I'm like, damn, I have a whole fruit platter, like, and I'm not eating like a rabbit, little skimpy stuff. Like, I really feel my body. I feel like Mario with the mushroom, like, bloop, bloop, bloop. I'm growing. I'm ready to kill the day. And when I eat like some bullshit at a fast food place, I feel like the opposite of the bloop, bloop, bloop. I just feel like, don't want to do anything.
Well, and that probably goes back to, you talked about, people are surprised to hear you have multiple properties, working on another one. You have the gym business, the coaching, all those things. The only way you can do that is being at the top of your game and have that same energy every day.
Yep.
You can't. And that's I think the other thing about coaching is, when people are paying you to come in and do their training or whatever it might be, they don't want an 80%, Heather. They don't understand that you may have had a long morning or that whatever it might be. They're like, I'm paying my hard-earned money. She needs to be, I expect the best out of her. So, you have other people's, livelihoods or whatever you want to call it, in play.
Yeah. And it really affects you, like, especially in a coaching business, people are coming to you for 100%. I want to give them 100% for their workout. I want to give myself 100% for my workout. And it's funny, this morning, I got up pretty early this morning. I didn't start work till 9, but I was up probably about 7. Well, I woke up at 6. I got out of bed at 7. But so I actually just finished 75 hard, right?
Okay.
And the last drink of alcohol I had was on Christmas. So I hadn't drank for this whole year. And then yesterday, I finished 75 hard on Friday. Yesterday, I went to the day pool and I was like, okay, great. Like, I'm done with 75 hard. I'm going to have some drinks, lay out, do my thing, right? And I really didn't drink much, just a little bit. But in the morning today, I felt like, it took me an hour to get out of bed. Luckily, I get out of bed way before work, anyways. But I remember feeling like, wow, I haven't felt even the slightest bit of fogginess in at least 6 months. And then all of a sudden today I feel it. Oh, what did I have yesterday? It just directly affects you. And if people realize that they're operating at 70% every single day, what do you think you're going to accomplish at the end of a year that you're operating at 100% every single day? It's like all that little bit makes a difference towards the goal.
So on that 75 hard, I have not done it yet, but a quick question. The one thing I've heard from a lot of people that have completed it is when they initially looked at it, they said they weren't going to have time to do everything on there. But they said after they've done it, they realize how much time throughout the day they typically waste.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Did you learn that?
Absolutely. And that is honestly the main reason I started it. I think we talked about this a little bit before. I became that adult that I never said I would be. Oh, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I don't have time. All of a sudden, I'm working through my workouts. All of a sudden, I'm working through my lunch breaks. All of a sudden, I'm not meal prepping. I'm not reading my book. I'm not listening to my business podcast, like, because I don't have time, air quotes, I don't have time. But then once I started doing 75 hard, it's like, okay, shit, I have to make time, because if you miss one thing, you have to start over. And I started it on January 3rd, the first Monday of the year. 30 days in, I had to start over. So I was like, okay, just have integrity and start over. And then I finished it once I started over. Like I said, I just finished a couple days ago. But now that it's done, I realize we all have time to do the things that are important. Somehow, every single day of 2022, I have found time to do 2 workouts, 1 outdoor, 1 indoor. I've found time to read my book every single day, to drink my gallon of water every single day. And nothing really changed other than the fact that I told myself I'm doing this program that says I have to do it every day. When in reality, we can all tell ourselves I have to do this every single day and just make it happen. And I really realized I was wasting a lot of time, thinking I was being busy, but not prioritizing time.
And I've heard that from so many people that have completed the program. They found time. And so many people, from what I've heard, think it's like a physical, like a training program, which it's more of a mental mindset type thing than anything.
Yes, it is not a physical fitness program, although you will get more fit. I got more fit and I was already pretty fit when I started, but it's about a mental discipline. It's about making time. It's about realizing that if it's important to you, you'll get it done. And like my discipline, and like I said, I think my discipline was pretty good before because of my lifestyle and things I do. And now it's even better. So it really gets you to the point of knowing that you can hold yourself accountable if it's really that important to you.
And you brought up a key word earlier, integrity, because if you skipped one of the aspects of 75 hard, there's nobody that's going to say you have to start over. It's 100% on you.
Yep.
So for those that are out there that don't know what 75 hard is, you can Google it and it's all over, but it's a free program that, from everything that I've heard, will completely transform people's lives, and something I need to do, but I've made too many excuses not to.
Well, Scott, now's a good time.
I know. Now that I put it on here, I'm going to have to do it because, it's like anything. I'll look at it because I'm like, well, I have this coming up on this date, so that's not going to work because that's only 40 days out. Or I'm going to be here on this date. That's not going to work.
Yep. And that's the thing. If we look at it, we have things going on all year. So
yes, that's just called life.
Yep. I will say it is much harder to do when you have trips and travel, but it's not impossible. You just have to plan a little better. And of course, like you said, having that integrity, because no one is really over you watching your back. No one's making sure you're doing everything. You're, again, being accountable and respecting yourself that you're going to do what you said you're going to do. And like I said, when I was 30 days in, I had to start over. I was moving. I remember this weekend I was moving from my old property that I just turned into a rental to my new property that I live in now. And I was doing all my 75 hard stuff. Plus, I waited super last minute to move. I didn't hire movers, which I will absolutely do every time in the future. And like there was nights where I was working out at 1 a.m. and then I would have to get up at 6 a.m. for work. There was a night where I had to have the house clear and the renters were going to come the next day. And I was moving boxes at 2 a.m. And I remember it was that Sunday. I took a 2-hour nap midday, which I don't even ever take naps because I don't have time. But this Sunday I had time. So I was like, I'm going to take a 2-hour nap and then I'm going to do my second workout, which is the only thing I had left to do. I slept through that alarm. I woke up at like 11 at night and I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to start over. I must have slept for 15, 16 hours at night. But I remember the next day thinking to myself, like, okay, but do I really need to start over? I only missed the workout. I did everything else. Like I had that thought because I'm still a human and I'm super perfectionistic. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to say that I just did it the first time with no problems. But I just had that check with myself, that respect. Like, hey, it's more important to say that you have integrity than it is to say you did it perfect the first time.
Yeah. And I think that's so much more relatable to people because almost everybody I've talked to that's done it has started over at least once.
Yeah. So. It's a hard program. Like, it's fucking hard, Scott. I'm going to just tell you right now. It is hard. Like, now that I'm done with it, I'm glad I'm done with it. But it's hard. Like, you really have to plan your days out the day before. But the sense you get when you're done, like I said, I was pretty fit when I started, but I'm more fit now. My running time's better. My endurance is better. My abs are more popping. Like everything from like real performance to aesthetics and making time to like read my book and study my business stuff. That's what these last 75 days have showed me. I've done all this shit. And honestly, since I started over, like my coworkers make fun of me because they're like, what are you on? 150 hard? How many days has it been? And I'm like, shut up, guys. I'm almost done.
Well, and it'll be interesting as you move forward now to see like if you feel like you have all this extra time in your day because you're managing your time better.
I'm definitely managing my time so much better because of 75 hard. And, you know, I say like, I hate Andy Frisella for making it, but I also love him for making it because I don't really see myself changing my routine. Like I'm still, unless I'm deathly ill, gonna work out every single day. I might not do 2 workouts every single day. Right now I have planned 2 workouts Monday through Friday, 1 workout on the weekends, but like I'm going to meal prep. I'm going to work out. I'm going to drink my water because it's so ingrained in me now. It almost feels more uncomfortable to get out of this routine at this point.
That's interesting. Yeah,
it just kind of puts you on track because this routine is all stuff that's geared towards my goals, being healthier, being better in business, having more knowledge. So everything I've been doing has only solidified me getting better at these things. And like even when I had my first drink this past weekend, my friends were like, come on, let's drink. Like I thought I was going to be so excited, but I was kind of hesitant at first. I was like, okay, let me have a drink, see how I feel. But there wasn't this whole like, oh yeah, great, I miss it. It was just like, oh, this is kind of weird. I don't do this anymore.
And that, you know, goes along with everything else I've heard when people do it. You know, it just completely transforms their mindset and their mental approach to everything. And they realize how mentally strong they can be in every other aspect of their life.
Exactly. I think every person, every human can be so much more mentally strong if they try, if they apply themselves. You know, I get asked a lot, I will say by like average people, for lack of a better term, who see fit people or people who are successful in business and they're just like, how do you do it? How do you do it? Like, how are you so fit? How are you successful in your business? And they think that it's something I have that they don't have. When we're the same person, you have the same things I do. The only difference is I'm making time to get it done. Like you could do the same things. I'm not some special person. People who are successful in business, we're not like superheroes. We're just people that apply ourselves a little bit every single day. And if more people would realize that they could do that too, I think they'd be a lot further along in where they want to be.
And I think you're 100% spot on. It comes down to whatever you prioritize.
Yeah.
We all have the same 24 hours in the day.
Yeah, it just matters what's important to you. If it's health, fitness, being successful, being there for your family, that's what you'll do. If it's relaxing, watching TV, doing a whole lot of nothing, that's what you're going to do every day.
And I think at least
it's a mental shift.
Yes. For me, I have found that if I start letting a few things slide, everything will slide for me.
Yep.
If I start trying to take attention or pay attention to the little details, I can look back and be like, hey, everything seems to be going pretty well.
Yeah. And that's like one of the things I like the most about like the 75 hard program and what it turns to. It's zero compromise. And that's what like, my clients, everyone knows, you can almost know who Heather's clients are at the gym because they all are a certain way. Like if I say we're doing 48 and a half minutes, we're doing 48 and a half minutes. We're not doing 47. If we know that we have to put every dumbbell away, we don't put every dumbbell except one pair away. Like there's just a certain way we get things done. And I think most people in life are used to compromising. Oh, I'll just do a half mile, even though the program says a mile. Oh, I'll just eat this serving of vegetables, even though my program says these servings. Like everyone compromises so much. And every time you compromise, you lose a little bit of yourself, I think.
I think you're 100%, like I said, spot on. And it's, I think the other, and I know you're going to have to go here shortly, but I think the other key, and I want to get your opinion on, is how much of this is by like, you always hear about you become the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. But how important is it for you, like, to put yourself around the right people that are, living life to its fullest, maxing out their day, all that stuff?
Absolutely important. It is so undervalued. And I honestly just had a talk with one of my friends about this the other day. Because I have noticed, the more I grow, the more successful I become, the more I prioritize my fitness, my business, my goals, the more I want to be around people who prioritize their fitness, their goals, whatever the thing is. And, in the last couple of years, there's friends that I used to hang out with all the time that I don't hang out with at all. There's people I used to talk to all the time that I don't hang out with at all. There's people that I'll meet and hang around one time and realize I'll never hang around them again. Not because they're bad people or anything, but just because we're on totally different levels in life. I want to be around people who make me want to do better. I don't want to be around people who are constantly complaining about being broke, complaining about being out of shape, complaining about life out to get them. Like when I meet people like that, I don't hang around them again. And as I grow and I realize that I have some friends that are still stuck in that mindset, I don't feel bad not hanging out with them anymore. Like the most important thing is being in a circle that's going to help you be where you want to be. And there's no way you can get to the top of the mountain if you're just hanging out with everyone at the pond at the bottom all the time.
And as we talked about earlier, we don't know, how much time we're going to have. We can't wait until, this day or this day, and then we'll prioritize that. If it's important to us, you have to do it today.
Exactly. And that's what really shows, we don't have the time. If it's important, you'll do it today. Me and one of my girlfriends were having the same conversation, kind of about who you surround yourself with. And like I said, like I'm just a young, single, not married, no kids, like busy girl. So all my clients, all my friends are always trying to hook me up with somebody. Like that's just their thing. And I'm like, guys, just let me live my life. But they're like, every client has a nephew or a cousin or something. And, sometimes, they might even mention some few details. And the first thing I always ask is like, is he fit and does he work out? And they're like, well, why don't you just get them to work out? I'm like, look, if they're not already prioritizing their health, I'm not going to come into their life and make them do it. Like, it's got to be something you're already doing. The people we surround ourselves with, for the most part, should be people who are already doing these things. Nobody wants to meet someone and fix them all the time.
Yeah, and nobody wants to be fixed, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know anyone else who does.
Yeah. So before I let you, a last question is, I know last time we talked that you're coming along in your podcast. Do you have a timetable on when that'll be out?
I'm hoping to start recording next month. I'm doing
Okay.
so I told you I'm doing some rebranding and re-logo work right now. I'm actually waiting on the girl who's doing it. I think she'll have something for me in the next week or two. So once we kind of have the rebrand solidified, new logo, rebrand, exactly what we're going to do, something I can actually stamp on the podcast episode, something I can stamp on the new merch, something that'll kind of be the face of the brand per logo. Then I will be putting it out there. Like I said, I think I've got a studio where we're going to record. All we need to do is put that brand and logo on it. But I think we'll start recording next month. And then, once we get that first episode out, it's just going to be episodes on a regular basis. People will be able to tune in. And I'll be reaching out to people because I also want to get some feedback. What do you guys want to hear? Some days it's going to be fitness. Some days it's going to be business. Some days could be life and relationships. Some day could be politics. I want it to be very interactive with my audience and give them what they want to hear the most. I'd like to get you on there for an episode, just really be well-rounded and give people what they want to hear.
Well, I think you're going to kill it. I can't wait. And, we'll obviously help share it and promote it when it comes out. But until then, where can they find you? I know we put on the last one, we'll put on this one, but where can they find you on Instagram?
You can check out my Instagram at Heather Hernandez.lv. That's Hernandez with a Z. Heather Hernandez.lv. Check out my Instagram. I post a lot of my workouts, boxing on there. And then, of course, once the podcast comes out, that'll be available on audio, video, YouTube. We'll have a podcast website. But I'll be putting those links on my Instagram on a regular basis.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. And Heather, thank you again for your time. I think hopefully we helped some people and maybe made people think about some things differently as well.
I hope so. I really do.
And as always, I thank you. And listeners, I thank you guys for listening. If you have any questions or suggestions, hit us up at podcast@volquartsen.com. Thank you.